Good evening and welcome to the June 16th, 2022 meeting of the Grafton Mass Disability Commission. And I don't see any guests other than ourselves, so I bear no introduction. And I will confirm no attendance. Daryl, we know, is not here, and Laura. So Christy Proctor.
Aye.
Bob Berger.
Aye.
Stephen Dorr.
Aye.
Rob Paulsonelli.
Aye.
And we don't have any anticipated speakers on the agenda, and absent anyone logged in, I'm going to skip over the remote meeting guidelines. We are familiar with them, so that just saved 3 minutes. So announcements. I will hand the meeting over to Mr. Berger.
All right, so I'm going to be leaving at a little bit before 7 because I got to get on the ZBA. But I wanted to tell this board that I put a request in for town meeting October 17th to get our interpreters in place. So I did speak to somebody in person, Rachel. She's going to give me an email in the next couple of days confirming that our request is in. Now, this is months ahead. And I said, I hope we can get it this time, because if we can't get it this time, then I don't think we're ever going to get it. All right. And that's what I wanted to get out before I left the meeting. And,
Okay.
and next Tuesday, I don't have to go in front of the selectmen for this board because they appointed me as a selectman representative for this board. But I think you guys have to be in that meeting. By Zoom.
We had spoken how anything we bring in front of them, I would post due to the likelihood that there could very well be a quorum, and so I would just
No, I meant reappointment.
Oh, reappointment.
Whoever's getting reappointed, that's happening on the 21st.
Right. And so I'll get to that as the next announcement item. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So town meeting interpreters for the 17th of October. Is that a Monday?
Yes.
All right. Do we have the technology, Bob, or is it beneficial to better have people in person? Or if we were to have a big screen, could someone log in as an interpreter remotely and have their presence be one of on a big screen in front of that group of people off to the side? Or
Never thought of that.
only, and I think we may have talked about that due to the need of two people, that all it would take is one person to back out at the last minute, and then there goes everything. And the availability of people far and wide, you could be 100 miles away and still be present to interpret if the technology existed with a big enough screen in that section of the meeting room.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't. And they are talking about artificial intelligence doing, performing that work, but that's not there yet.
No. And
Right.
what I was referring to is someone
Oh, I know.
zooming in.
No,
Yeah.
I know. I'm gonna say, you know what? Let's try walking or crawling before we start running.
Okay,
Because I really want to just see if this will work.
okay,
I mean, last year, our last meeting, I gave them 2 months, 3 months. I'm giving them plenty of time now. They should be able to fulfill this request.
okay. Yes, I agree.
And then maybe we're gonna have the server in place. So on rebroadcast, it'll be in live broadcast, it'll be closed caption.
Right. That'll be exciting. All right, next item on announcements, expiring terms, Laura Deneen and Daryl Riney. So Laura is re-upping, but Daryl put in a request that she wasn't. So they actually, Daryl was among a slate of individuals who were on various committees that weren't seeking appointment in the select board this past Tuesday, the 14th, accepted those resignations. Now, the thing is that no one from the public has put forth in time to put in their names to compete with Laura's reappointment or to step in for Daryl's, meaning that Laura's reappointment would go uncontested and Daryl's vacancy would have to be advertised. And Laura's going to be, she's on vacation. So I don't know how technical the select board is as far as people being present, even on Zoom, when people may be out of the country. Do you think it would be over the top for us to vote as a committee to endorse Laura Deneen's reappointment? In case they strictly adhere to, you must be present in some fashion if you want to seek reappointment, and she can't be present even with that.
Well, you know, is she out of the country?
I think she's in Aruba or something.
So maybe you can reach out to the chair and talk to the chair.
Yeah.
Us voting is not going to do anything for them.
No, I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying that just sort of as a stopgap. I'll text or call Colleen and just explain the situation. I can't imagine that in the absence of anyone competing for that slot, that she wouldn't get reappointment. Get reappointed. So, all right, I won't take any motion in that regard, Bob, because yeah, you're right. It wouldn't make any difference. So we'll wait, and the select board will advertise Daryl's opening for the slot effective 7/1 or retroactive. It'll be done sometime in July. So the question here is, and I know we're not at the point where we're in July. Okay, so even though the select board as the appointing authority agreed to send thank you letters to each of those appointees for their service, we have traditionally done the same and duplicated that effort as a committee. So do we want to do that tonight, or do we want to wait till July to then thank her for her service? I'm willing to take a motion now to send a letter of thanks to Daryl for her service on the Disability Commission.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second? All right. Motion made by Mr. Berger, seconded by Rob Paulsonelli. And I would send out a letter of thanks, just as I have always done with folks. All those in favor by roll call: Mr. Berger.
Aye.
Catherine.
Aye.
Rob.
Aye.
Christie.
Aye.
Trahan, I declare the motion carried unanimously 5-0. So just putting an asterisk here to write that letter to Daryl. Thanks. All right, gotta circle it with my blue marker. Blue markers for me mean things to do. I live in a low-tech world. Any other announcements? I have a really cool announcement that is like super awesome. And this is a long time coming. I know California already has it, but effective on the July 16th, the new number 988, like you dial 911, 988 will reach the National Suicide Prevention Hotline nationwide. It will be live on the 16th of July. So instead of someone in crisis needing to scramble for some 800 number somewhere, they can dial 988 and reach someone. And that is overdue, and I'm really psyched that I just stumbled upon it. I hadn't heard of it until like just a couple of days ago, and I stumbled upon it in a newspaper article. So,
Roger, could you go back and explain what the purpose of 980 is again?
no, 988 is instead of like dial 911, 988, you dial it on your phone and you are automatically connected to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Oh, suicide. Thank you. That's all I needed.
Yeah. So 988.
Thank you.
Another announcement, someone's going to need to rescue me on the details here, but I just wanted to touch base with, and we can maybe fill in details if need be at another meeting, that Grafton Public Schools and the police, the Grafton Police Department have teamed up on training for responses where to situations where there may be someone on the autism spectrum and may have challenges communicating in certain ways. And so and I guess there's some type of like voluntary database that if the police are responding to a situation, I'm not sure if it's only the schools or if it's in the broader community, that they know that they may be encountering someone who may not be able to communicate in that situation to what they may have anticipated. So has anyone heard of this? There was a CPAC presentation the other night, and I didn't hadn't reached out to Heather. So is anyone familiar with this program?
So specifically in Grafton, I am not. Through my work in the past, though, that is something a lot of police departments hold, is a database. It is something that you need to voluntarily, or affirmatively put yourself on.
Right.
But it does, so that if there is a fire, EMS, whatever, coming to the home, the emergency responders are aware that someone in the home does have autism, may not respond in a typical fashion.
Right.
They actually have a database. You can have pictures included and things like that as well. It's pretty robust. And in the heaven forbid episode, it's really helpful for emergency responders to have that, so they know not to anticipate, a normal response that a typical kid or a normal developing person would have. So yeah, it's really cool.
All right, so I'll see if we can. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about this because it's something that people will want to engage in and sign up for, and we'll be hearing more about it. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of users. A lot of people will benefit from that. Any other announcements? I don't have any. Anyone else? Okay. External correspondence number 2. All right, so when I sent you an email last night and I sent all these attachments, at the last minute, I was able to get the meeting packet together. I realized that last night I hadn't emailed you the correspondence from the Architectural Access Board. That was a communication to Mass Department of Transportation, DOT, the Highway Division, and it had to do with a number of telephone poles smack dab in the middle of the sidewalks from, I think, 151 Worcester Street all the way to Wheeler Road. So, Mr. Berger, as the ADA coordinator in town, you were given a copy of that. So I guess we'll just wait and see. The AAB has these hearing schedules. I think they meet, twice a month? I'm not sure. And we'll just wait and see on this. You're muted.
I was clicking on my screen, my keyboard, so I didn't want to disturb you. I don't know where that's going to go, because you're talking, the power company's going to move the telephone poles. And I think these hearings just go through. They may come out with a resolution, but I don't think they're ever going to do anything. I think these poles are going to be slap dab in that sidewalk and never move.
So let me ask you this. If resources and money weren't an issue in a fairy tale world, the only way to make the necessary space in the sidewalks would probably be for the town to get easements or some type of, to put those, because right now those abutters, those people, those homes, especially on that side of the bridge, closest to the Worcester Street address, those homes are pretty close to the sidewalk.
It wouldn't be an easement. It would be a taking.
It would be a taking. Okay.
And we wouldn't be taking that.
Would that be a town meeting would need to approve a taking?
Well, they took the state took Worcester Street years ago by
Right.
eminent domain. That's how they widened the street many, 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 many years ago.
Okay,
So the only way to really get rid of all that infrastructure is to get it out of the poles and put it on the ground.
right, right.
Just like Franklin did. Franklin did their main street that way. And there's a program to do that, but I think you have to commit to all of the power.
Oh, wow.
So I think we're going to be, let the hearings go through, and we're just going to be in the background, and we're going to listen, and we're
Okay.
going to watch, and we're going to maybe get educated on the process of what really happens, because I don't think anything's going to happen.
It would be a huge undertaking if it did. And so, it'd probably, who knows, can't imagine that it wouldn't end up in court or so. It's not going to be a quick process. I don't think the power companies are going to roll over and say, yeah, sure, we'll just spend
Right.
millions of dollars relocating this stuff. So we'll just keep it on our radar. And they'll keep on giving us updates.
Right. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we get more information on how the hearing went. Like I said, it's just going to be educational for us because, we're just sitting in the background. We're the audience just watching the soap opera.
Right. Yep. All right. All right. Moving forward, meeting minutes and May 19th. Do I have a motion to accept the draft minutes of May 19th, 2022?
So moved.
All right, so moved by Rob. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Catherine. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I had a few highlights, probably like 2 or 3.
Roger, excuse me, could
Yes.
you please enable me to share and
Oh,
Perfect.
I'll
Thank you.
pull up the meeting minutes.
okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All panelists who can start share, okay.
And then you can all watch me edit.
Okay,
No,
go for it.
you say that every meeting, I have notes. You ask him to share every meeting.
Because I'm remiss in doing so. All right, 1C, under announcements, 1C, the police department is hiring a part-time behavioral therapist. I don't know if I had delineated or described their role, if they were therapists or whether it's a distinction without difference. Behavioral resource, I don't know. The behavioral health resource, I don't know what their title is or role, but it was regarding behavioral health, but I don't recall referring to them as a therapist. Something like that. Is everyone okay with behavioral health staff member? I think that's kind of generically how I described it.
I'm good with that.
Then on under 4, the actual vote. What we did is that was the kind of switcheroo where we needed to knowingly if we affirmatively, intentionally voted on something that would be defeated. All right, so it was the initial vote on the Disability Commission charge, and we all voted no. But what that lacked is the motion declared defeated, I guess 0-6 at the end, right before the next paragraph that said Christie made a motion. That discussion was in 2 parts. Defeated 0-6 or whatever. Yeah, and it's clear that everyone voted against it. Yeah. And okay, so that takes care of that. And the second to last thing I wanted to mention is under 5, Grafton Public Library. Roger Trahan sent a letter. It's sent an email.
Thank you.
And then the last thing was under 8, new business. Daryl described how at the last town meeting, and the T in town and M in meeting are both capitalized. Yeah,
Roger, do you have the date for that? Was that the spring, the April? I mean,
yeah.
I can't remember the date or I'm just trying to remember the month.
At the
May.
spring, well, even though you say, well, you could just say spring 2022 town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Even if we don't have the exact date, it's just incorporated by reference. Is everyone okay to not include the date? I mean, we could look it up on our.
I'm looking it up right now. I might be able to find it.
All right, if we could just wait 2 seconds, it may be beneficial at least to.
May 9th, 2022.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Bob. All right, cool. And then, all right, so that is the last edit. Do I have any other discussion?
Yeah, Roger,
Yes, Rob.
Christy, could you scroll back up to number 1.E, I think it was?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to reapply. I'm only at the end of year 1.
Thank you.
Oh, God, I missed that.
It sort of, I breezed by it when I was glancing through the notes earlier, but when you just went through them, I was like, wait, that was me.
And time flies, right?
I know.
Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
so, all right, so Rob is not on there, okay. And all right, so any other further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, Christie,
Aye.
Bob Berger,
Aye.
Catherine Dorr,
Aye.
Rob Paulson,
Aye.
Trahan, I declare the motion carried unanimously 5-0.
Can I
Okay.
go back 1 second? Can I just ask, I think it was Rob made a motion and Catherine seconded, correct? For this?
Yes.
Right, that is correct.
That's right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have to walk away.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so it is whatever time, and so you won't be rejoining us because you have the other meeting.
I'm in 3 cases, so I don't think I'm gonna have
Okay,
time.
no, thank you, Mr. Berger.
All right, guys, thank you.
Ciao.
Everybody have a
Bye,
good
Bob.
weekend. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Disability Commission charge. Okay, so what happened is we ended up doing a few things. We ended up at an earlier meeting, probably in April, voting on a draft charge change. And then in May, we voted on the letter that would then introduce the recommended changes. And then together, that letter, which is at least on a preliminary basis dated May 19th, along with what we thought was the final voted on recommended changes, I would then add to that a copy of the current charge and the general laws, section 8J of chapter 40. And those 4 documents would comprise what I would submit to the select board to request that we as a committee come before them. And, or at the very least, me as chair, kind of teeing off things, and then Rob and Christie, you as a subcommittee, while also me advertising and posting a public meeting using the meeting room and Zoom ID numbers, so that if anyone wanted to, they would know that our discussion was simply tagging on to the select board meeting, and that if Bob Berger or you, Catherine, or Daryl or anyone else, Laura, wanted to, that any one of us could constitute a quorum and be there without any open meeting violation. And what happened is that I remember, I think Daryl might have been the one that said, are you sure that you don't want to, I think she had hinted to us, okay, and I'll bring this back after indexing. Daryl volunteered to index. And we just assumed that everything was fine. And it turns out that when Daryl was looking at the current charge and then our recommended changes in indexing, she put together draft changes that, in my opinion, I felt that they were substantive enough and ones that we overlooked that would complete, our work. Okay. And so if you bring up the meeting packet or that document that I emailed to you, it's the highlighted document. It's the first one was April, and then the second one is the highlighted document that makes a few recommendations in 1, 2, 3, I think it was a handful of areas that are, in my opinion, non-controversial. I think what happened is we missed sort of repeating some of the administrative items that reference some of the general law and such. And so I'm not sure procedurally how to do this. All right. Now, part of me is thinking that this could be two motions. One, to reconsider our previous vote. Okay. And just without debate, agree that we will reconsider what the committee actually voted on this as the final document that was supposed to go in front of the select board. Daryl has made a compelling argument to me that we really should relook at this. All right. And so rather than just saying, oh, because she says so, we need to relook at this, one of the procedural ways to do this is taking it as two votes. Number one, entertaining a motion to reconsider our prior vote to amend this document further, and then voting on that, the four of us, and then another motion to vote on the recommended changes that Daryl, in the process of doing the indexing, felt needed changes. What does everyone think about that?
No, I think it's a good play. I think it's a safe way of doing it so that we're not just jumping.
Yeah, not just because one member said it needed changes, that would somehow overturn the vote that this was the final document. The earlier version was the final document to go in front of the select board. Now, my understanding is, and I forget how Robert's rules works, and I could be wrong on this, that motions to reconsider are not ones that can be debated. In other words, someone can't filibuster the discussion on a motion to reconsider. And so I think it's routine enough that I'll just take a motion and ask for a second that we reconsider the changes. And then we vote on that without debating that. And then move forward with a whole another motion on the final changes themselves. So
sorry, Roger, just for clarity then, so it would be then there would be potential for discussion during the second motion.
Yes, yeah.
Before the
this is just more a procedural vote for the four of us to vote on whether to reconsider what was a final vote on the recommended changes to go to the select board. So so I will entertain a motion to reconsider our prior vote on the document changes.
So moved. Oh,
All right.
Sorry, Chrissy.
Okay, so this is I'm sorry, I'm just getting the words done.
It's a procedural motion.
No, I know, to consider,
to
reconsider
reconsider
the document changes recommended by Daryl.
No.
Okay.
It's to reconsider the prior vote of the Disability Commission
Okay.
to have considered the April document as final, as a final draft, pardon.
Okay. Okay.
All right. And so I had a motion to reconsider by Rob. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All right.
Thank you,
Second by,
Catherine.
all right. Thank you, Catherine. All right.
I'm
Motion
typing
to,
away here. I can't see both.
Yeah.
motion to reconsider the changes on the document by roll call. Catherine Dorr,
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Rob Paulsonelli,
Aye.
Roger Trahan. I declare the motion carried 4-0. Okay, now I will take a motion. I will entertain a motion to consider adding the additional recommendations as put forth by Daryl and highlighted in the document in the meeting packet. So you could reference the highlighted areas because the meeting packet, which is now posted on the town website, does have those highlights. So I guess I will entertain a motion to consider adding or amending the earlier charge.
Yeah, I think leave it at that, right, till we have the discussion.
Yeah, to amend the earlier discharge. I'm just trying to come up with a motion, the wording of the motion, to add to our charge change recommendations, something like that. Okay. All right, so, all right, and so I would need a, who would that motion, who was making that motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Christy is making the motion. Who's seconding it?
I guess I'll second it.
Catherine, you
Since I'm here.
rock. Catherine, you rock the free world. All right, so motion made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Let's go through what the highlights were. Do you have that document? I actually created a Gmail account last night to be able to go into the Google Drive and extract that.
Okay,
I finally
so,
caved into Gmail. I've been working on Hotmail for like 20 years.
okay, so let me go to, I'll pull it up and share it. I don't know if I can share and type at the same time though.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
in
Um,
PDF,
is-
wasn't it?
yeah, but here's the, I was just gonna say.
I
the
have a
problem
Word,
is
no,
the-
I have a Word document. I have the Word
Oh,
document.
can you pull up the Word, or wait a minute, did you share it as a Word doc? Because I'd rather go back in my email then and pull up the,
Oh, shoot.
I can't remember. I'll tell you in 1 second. I'm almost there.
yeah.
Daryl did. Daryl's email.
No, but, did she? But I don't think she highlighted it. Did she?
Oh, she may not have.
Hold on, I'm just trying to,
Yeah, I don't know which one's which.
I don't know. I am not tech savvy.
Daryl did not highlight it.
Okay, so, all right, what I'm thinking of doing is, okay, so if I were to open a Hotmail doc,
Well, I'm opening up the 12 megabyte version of what she sent us, which is, I'm loading it right now. It's not highlighted, but this will be the most specific. It's the
yeah, and in
copy.
other words, all we're doing is, we would be not changing any of her wording. What we would simply be doing is accepting her additions as being added to the final voted on document that I would put before the select board. So proposed charge advisory made, okay, so the first highlight was started on the end of the first line with the word change.
Yeah.
Change title to Accessibility Advisory Commission. All right, so it would be Accessibility Advisory Commission. So I don't know. So do you delete the word change title to?
Well, don't we want the select?
Okay,
board?
change. Okay, you're right. Okay,
This is
change
the
title to,
change.
okay. The purpose, all right, so, I guess, with, what we could do by, by consent or by agreement is, as we go through these changes, maybe agree that there were no objections to any of these one by one, and then
Okay.
vote on those as a whole.
Okay,
Okay, so the second one was under purpose, in accordance with, and ending with the word commission on the second line, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 40, Section 8J, the Grafton Accessibility Advisory Commission. And leave it at, in other words, that is added.
mhm,
Correct.
Now, look, from a grammatical standpoint, the words are, is to assure that, it sounds pretty choppy. Do we say exists to assure, or the word is kind of choppy
it's
in there?
passive, it's passive. We could just say the word assures all people in Grafton.
Okay,
Hmm.
Catherine, is that a that's good, or a that's not so good?
No, that's a that's good. Yeah, because is to
Okay.
assure just sounds kind of.
Remember, we had that
Or
long
will.
discussion about insure versus.
I know,
assure?
assure.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
That's one of those I have to look it up every time.
okay, all right, so assures, okay.
Is
Yeah.
it, and I'm sorry, this is probably quibbling over nothing. Is will assure stronger than or more accurate than assures,
Hmm.
where it's forward looking versus,
well, we do say will work toward this end.
I know,
Maybe just to keep everything, all the
consistent.
tenses together.
Yeah, because I'm noticing 3 shalls here in the next section,
Yeah.
I
and
know.
the shalls, yeah, will, I'm gonna put will back in, Roger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was is, I forget how she had that phrased. Hold on.
Is
To assure before. Yeah, I think will assure is.
Okay, will assure.
Yeah,
all
because
right,
is to assure kind of implies that there's a clause before that and there isn't. So
you're a word nerd
Well,
too. I
I'm just
like
gonna say that.
you.
Yeah, well done, Catherine.
Yeah. Do you play Scrabble?
no.
Oh, I need some Scrabble buddies. Okay, so the next highlighted area was under membership and term of service. The Grafton Accessibility Advisory Commission, that the third, fourth, and fifth words, I think our draft still kept the words Disability Commission in there.
Yeah.
And so this is simply adding or swapping that out to be Accessibility Advisory Commission, okay? And then the final bullet point under powers and duties
Mhm.
is coordinate with the Massachusetts Office on Disability, MOD, to provide programs designed to assist with training and needs as necessary. I don't think that was on the earlier version 8.
So it was not, and
And so that seemed to be Rob and Christie, had you discussed that, or everyone just overlooked that?
well, so I think there were multiple parts to this. One of them is the bullet point that begins encourage. So right next to where the cursor is currently showing on the screen. Disability, there are parts of the state statute included in there that refer back to this line, and that's where that indexing, you can see at the end, that 1, 3, 5, and 6.
Right.
Number 3 is the phrase within the state, I'm missing the word at the moment, the statute that aligns, number 3 is the one that aligns with this MOD part.
So okay, so I'm wondering then, are you saying that if we were to go back to under the purpose, that first sentence, in accordance with the general laws, is that broad enough and to incorporate by reference the final bullet point of coordinating with the Mass Office on Disability? In other words, is it kind of duplicative?
I don't think it's necessarily duplicative with that original or with that first phrase that we added in the purpose. I guess my point would be more that I was one of 2 things. I think this encourage and value communication with community members, that part is different. but it's about disability awareness by conducting outreach activities, collaborating with community partners and other activities as deemed appropriate.
Okay,
That part of that section, I think sort of the intent was to reference back to this third section from 8J that asked for us to coordinate and carry out programs designed to meet the problems of people with disabilities in coordinations with the MOD.
yeah.
So what we didn't do was specify in coordination with MOD anywhere in that phrase.
So are you saying that, all right, that
Yeah.
the last bullet point of the section under powers and duties, coordinate with the Mass Office on Disability is beneficial, redundant, necessary, unnecessary? What?
Personally, I think it's redundant, although we could add clarity to the bullet point 2 above that begins again with encourage and value. If we were to add in coordination with the Massachusetts Office of Disability, it does specify and line up a little bit better with
Because we
8J.
wouldn't necessarily have to coordinate with MOD on everything. In other words, we're reasonably autonomous to the extent that we have the resources and knowledge within town.
Correct. And I guess this is the difference though, and I'm sure why Daryl included it.
Okay.
I haven't had a discussion with her, but I assume because 8J says point blank in coordination with programs of the Massachusetts Office on Disability.
Okay. So then that last bullet point, then, even if we leave it out, the fact that we're referencing the state statute, and the state statute includes that reference to coordinating with MOD. Are you saying, I'm not entirely understanding you, are you saying that then that it should suffice then for us to okay not adding the last highlight that Daryl recommended?
I guess, no, it's actually something in between the two, Roger, and I'm sorry for not being
Okay.
clear.
I
So-
just didn't want to tear the document apart once more.
No, definitely. No. And my suggestion, rather than I think tearing it apart, is a simple addition.
Okay,
So
Or-
if you, oh,
Go ahead, Rob.
so my suggestion is we just add at the end of the encourage and value, that sentence.
Yep.
Right after the word appropriate, we add in conjunction with the Massachusetts Office on Disability. And then we strike the last bullet point that Daryl added, because I do believe that there's redundancy there, but at the same time, she was adding a detail that we had omitted.
oh, okay, that's
that-
perfect. Yeah,
Okay,
all right, so then we'll, in conjunction with a Mass Office on Disability, and then strike that last bullet point. Okay, that's a nice workable amendment. So what I want to, before getting onto the budget and gift section, actually, no, I will get to the budget and gift section, then I want to go back to one other technical item that's has to do with numbering. So budget and gifts, even though it's not kind of part of the charge, I like the budget and gifts section. Daryl had put the wording word for word that's from 8J, that really articulates the authority we have to receive gifts and how those are coordinated. I'm thinking, imagine if we had excluded that, and no one really knows that. I mean, it's a pretty arcane part of the statute that could be a good revenue source.
right.
Not just accessible parking violations at $100 a whack. If the Engvalls on North Street could donate their land, who's to say that someone, if they know they're not just making a donation or throwing an insurance policy to the general fund of the town, that this exists. However advertised, you never know, where, I mean, I wouldn't rely on this, as some windfall, but you never know where money's going to come from. You hear about universities.
Right.
All of a sudden, some person who had a nice teacher 40 years ago, all of a sudden gives some obscene amount of money to like Holy Cross or Assumption or WPI, what have you. And so it's my long-winded version of saying, I like how, even though it's really technically not a charge, it's almost like what we're allowed to do by the statute, that by having it on the town website, by talking about it, by having it be out there, it doesn't disappear. Because I think the next step after this, would be, and I need to follow up with Evan on this. I had asked him, what is the mechanism to set this in motion? Because even if we don't include it in our charge, doesn't mean we don't have the authority to receive these gifts. But what are the parameters of what is allowed and what isn't allowed? What account or accounts need to be set up by the town accountant? Similar to the parking account, the violations account. And what have other towns done? Do we know from the Division of Local Services or the Attorney General's Office or Mass Office on Disability? Jeff Dugan wasn't aware of, but I had asked him about, is there any town or city out there that has a disability commission that has received funds or property or something that liquid that maybe someone resold that is now an asset to be used or to be recommended by the Disability Commission to the Select Board to spend money on? Because it just doesn't happen automatically. There must be some parameters and some findings by some authority at the state level on, what is allowed, what isn't allowed, how is it spent, what accounts are set up, those types of things. And then from a mechanic standpoint, how do we advertise this? So does anyone have any objection that budgets and gifts be added? Even though it's technically not a charge, it's an authority.
Well, and I guess, so Roger, my question is that something we get to say, or is that something the Select Board actually gets to say?
No, what happens is it said said commission may receive gifts of property, both real and personal, in the name of the
Sorry,
city.
Roger, not whether or not it can happen, whether or not we include it specifically in our charge.
Yeah, I don't know, because I haven't looked at the charges of other committees in town,
Right.
or digested them fully. I don't know how broad it's really technically not a charge.
Right.
But in some respect, though, it becomes a responsibility if we were to receive a gift and someone, we found out they wanted, the recipient doesn't necessarily have to be the town's Accessibility Advisory Commission or Disability Commission. It's to the town. And let's say John or Jane Doe left $10,000 in a life insurance policy to the town of Grafton for the purposes of accessibility related services regarding X, Y, and Z. And then someone realized, okay, this has to work in harmony with our authority to receive such a gift. As a commission, it said, subject to the approval of the Select Board in the town, such gifts to be managed and controlled by said commission for the purposes of this section of the MGL. I thought, and I originally read this to mean that the Disability Commission, or however named, would be the ones to call the shots as to how to recommend to the Select Board how the money should be spent, and that they would either approve or deny it or kick it back to us. That our role wouldn't just be to manage and control this and be an accounting mechanism. We're not the accountants.
Right.
I thought I understood 8J to read that the Disability Commission, yeah, may receive gifts of property, both real and personal, in the name of the city or town, subject to the approval of the select board. That somehow that necessarily would mean that we would somehow have to debate how to either spend that gift or liquidate it. If let's say if someone left their van or their house or their, and it couldn't, in that particular gift or asset couldn't be used for accessibility related purposes, we would probably get together and discuss how to either liquidate it or how that should be spent and make that recommendation to the select board. Is that how you read it?
Yes, absolutely.
That it would start from us recommending, and then through whatever mechanism was somehow created, probably with the assistance of our town attorney and the accountant's office and even the AG's office, we would need to be given guidance on what are the allowable ways to spend this money. And similar to the parking fines violations, individuals can't benefit to the exclusion of others. We can't give it to a specific person. It has to be for the use of the general public.
Correct. So I guess the question is whether or not that is part of our charge, and it has not historically been, I guess, included, right? If we look at the current charge as it is currently constituted.
Right.
And I'm not at all.
Yeah, it simply reiterates part of 8J.
Correct.
That I would hate to see disappear. That
Well,
no one,
yeah.
I by having it in here,
Right.
and having it as an indexing of budget and gifts,
Right.
doesn't work against it. It's not working against our charge. I think it's just kind of adding something that some could argue really shouldn't be in there. But in my opinion, by having it in there, it's always going to be front and center that this is a funding source.
If we control, I guess, and this is maybe a better question, do we control where information goes on the now Disability Commission website, on the town website?
I don't know what the rules and regs are internally about these things, but I'm not aware that anything that's non-controversial would be given a pushback by the town administrator or select board's office if we wanted to add resources, data, reference materials to the website.
Right.
I don't know if there's a policy. I don't know if a policy exists.
Yeah, and we could add, because I mean, one option we certainly have to avoid any potential, pushback from anyone on this becoming part of the charge where it hasn't been before, would just be, we move forward with the charge as, sort of we vote on today, and then with the absence of that, but then ask that is published on the bottom of that front page, right? That section right from, AJ, as is written on Daryl's suggestion, to just put that right down underneath our charge on that sort of homepage for the Disability Commission.
Yeah, and the thing is that to your point, we don't include the parking fine stuff under the other section,
Right.
In other words, as a funding source, but and we have the authority to recommend how that money should be spent.
Right. Which is interestingly, I mean, there probably ought to be some reference in the charge to us.
Yeah, I just have this feeling that things, and this happened a few years ago, where we changed servers in town and all this stuff well, if you go back, things don't exist prior to 2014.
Right.
Okay, I had to get our minutes resurrected from 2009 and 2010. And so I just the cynic in me, and I don't want this discussion to go on forever, but the cynic in me says that if we don't put it in there, that somehow it'll get lost in the shuffle, because we're not always going to be here. I plan on living in Grafton for a while and continuing my tenure for many years on this commission. But sometimes in the absence of documenting things, that institutional memory sometimes has a tendency to disappear.
Mhm.
And, you know, so, but in the same light, we're including budget and gifts, but we're not including the thing about parking fines. So, but it's a different statute though, okay? In other words,
Mhm.
it's 22 something. It's part of chapter 40, but it isn't 8J
Yeah.
regarding our charge.
Right.
So would we be remiss in not adding the thing about the parking fines too?
It's a fair question.
I think it's 22G, chapter 40, section 22G.
I think you're starting to go down a minuscule, like, I don't think so.
Okay.
But that's my opinion. Anyone can disagree with me. I don't think we have to go that crazy.
Right. Well, the thing is, and you know, I'll agree with you on that, Christy, because right now that account has existed for many years, the parking fines account, and it's something that happens automatically. And it's cash, and it's the same amount for every violation. It's $100. There's nothing creative that we need to do with it, nothing that we need to liquidate or really receive. It happens automatically that if there's a $100 fine that gets paid for accessibility violation, it automatically goes into an account that has existed for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know if we've come back to square one. Rob, are you okay with leaving it in or not? I mean, do you
Yeah,
have
no,
examples?
I am actually fine leaving it in. It's then, I think we just want to then amend the letter that we're attaching to it. Because it's a significant change from the prior version of, or current version of the charge.
Right, and so the thing is that the letter, right now, the letter I would want added to the motion, that the letter gets redated to today's date.
Without
But
question.
what is it about the letter? I don't think there's anything in the letter that would need to be changed, even though we've added these changes.
You might be right. Maybe we struck some of that out.
Yeah, I think when it was a page and a half, the earlier version, the final version that we at least called final as of May 19th. I don't know if you can bring up that letter, or shall I read it? I'm reading it now, and I'm not seeing.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not seeing whether the last sentence says changing the commission's name to Accessibility Advisory Commission. The only change I would make to this letter would be, and also change our commission's email address. Because right now it's Disability Commission at grafton-ma.gov. And so I'm not prepared to debate exactly what it should be.
Right.
Accessibility Advisory Commission that seems too long. Accessibility at grafton-ma.gov. I don't know, maybe that's shorter. That may seem, but I don't think we need to land on something because that's separate from changing the charge. That's an administrative mechanism to change the email the group email address.
Yeah, we hand that off to Evan.
Right. So do we include in the letter?
We did not. We struck the language that I was thinking about earlier, Roger.
Right. But what about the idea of it? And the last sentence says, for the same reasons outlined above, our commission members' recommendations include changing the commission's name to the Accessibility Advisory Commission. And that Accessibility Advisory Commission is bolded.
Mhm.
Do we leave it at that? And then as a separate email or something separate from this letter, just bring up the fact that, you know, I mean, no, I don't think the Disability Commission voted on what our email address was the first time around. So,
Right.
I mean, I think the shorter the better.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to touch that until the select board has actually accepted
Right,
the new one,
Okay.
especially the name change.
okay.
Right.
All right, so I guess, so Christy, as you are, are you on Google Drive right now?
No, but I can be.
No. I think the Google Drive kind of turned my world upside down this past week.
No, well,
And-
I'm on Google Chrome right now, so I can go to Google Drive very
No,
easily.
all I want is a hard copy. I don't have to go through like a database or a shared drive. That after this meeting tonight, the recommended changes that we make, okay, are that you give them to me as in a saved fashion, so that I can combine everything along with a redated letter to send to the select board to request our presence in front of them.
Well, I'll attach it as in the email that I'm gonna send you with the meeting minutes anyways, so.
Okay, great. And it's a Word document? Or-
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and here's my question. So I went to my drive and I looked for shared with me. I don't have anything from the Disability Commission.
Okay. And here's the thing. I think that Daryl, when I spoke with her, it was yesterday, she thinks that you may have actually given her a Word document and that she uploaded it to the drive.
Which makes sense because I'm looking at my files right now in my
Right.
folders. I have nothing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Let me just go to shared with me one more time. I have nothing except what Daryl shared with me yesterday, the charge update and the copy of the charge, but
Right.
there's not a disability folder.
And I don't think there needs to be at this point, now that we've landed on things, and I'm going to, what I will do is I will put all of these
Okay.
documents together. So oh, I have something very, all right, so, okay, now that we're including the budget and gift section, okay? The question I had was, and it was one that was confusing, that would be confusing to the reader. I thought for the purposes of our discussion and our ability to monitor what part of the general laws we were talking about and whether our recommended changes were consistent and stayed consistent with the general law, that the bracketed, the parenthesized 2, 4, 5, 1, 3, 6, that sort of stuff, it's out of context to anything. In other words, to the reader, what does that mean? Do we take those references out of the final document?
Yes,
In other words, that was only for the internal
correct. That was a
purposes.
part of our working document.
Okay. Okay, so, bear with me.
So that means that we go back, or I go back, and I remove these.
Those all the numbers. Yep.
So, so I think the only places they are at the end of the bullet points. Am I correct?
Correct. You are correct.
Okay. Can I just make a comment? You know, in this really wild world of Facebook head bashing and everything, I look at our working group. I think we have a cool, harmonious commission. You know what I mean? I think some committees and groups are, if they saw how well we get along, would be envious. So I hope people have disability commission envy. So. Do we all agree that we're a cool working group?
Without question.
Yeah.
Do you want this to stay in as well, the Mass General Law title? I'm gonna say-
Yeah, because that is, in
Okay.
other words, that is something that is not like subjective. In other words, we didn't create that wording as some subjective Yeah, in other words, it may be repetitive to the fact that the very beginning of the document references 8J, but as a separate and ending paragraph, I don't think it hurts to have that repeated, that is where that wording comes from.
Okay,
Or we just, or if you could pull up that last paragraph, Christie, put that last sentence as the first wording. If you bring up that last paragraph, if you scroll.
so if I say at the beginning,
Like, okay, before the word said, pursuant to Title 7, Chapter 40, Section 8J. The commission, you don't even have to say said commission. You could say, accessibility advisory commission. Or you could just say the commission, because right now it's disability commission, but it hasn't yet been renamed. So by it kind of tees it off better by having it at the beginning.
okay,
Yeah, I think that's a little cleaner.
I agree.
Everyone agree on that wording?
Most definitely.
Cool. Awesome. Go Celtics.
Sorry, we have to be
Dave,
done by
Dave,
9 tonight.
What was that?
We have to be done by 9 tonight.
Oh, we will be. It's 7:37. We'll be done shortly.
okay,
They
so,
looked so bad. They looked so bad these last two games at the end. It was
so
really-
can we have a call to order and call a vote now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Okay,
now that I think we're at the point where now that you remove the parentheses, I'm ready to call a vote. Any further discussion? All those, hearing none, all those in favor by roll call. Catherine?
Aye.
Wow.
Aye.
Christie?
aye,
Rahan? I declare the motion carried 4-0.
great, okay,
All right, so you'll send that to me along with the
Sorry.
draft minutes?
yep,
Yeah, and I'll get that either tonight or first thing in the morning after the Celtics win. I'll get that to the select board and then we can once I know what meeting we'll be at, probably at the very end. No, not the end of June, maybe first week of July, I'm not sure.
Probably
So
won't be a meeting that week.
no, what? No, the select board, yeah, you're right, because they usually meet first and third. We'll figure something out. And then one that, not to leave anyone else out, but Rob and Christie, all right, me as chair, and then Rob and Christie, you as a subcommittee. That we need to kind of coordinate. Are you folks going away? I'm not going anywhere.
So I am away the week of the 4th.
Okay.
But again, I don't anticipate
Yeah.
a select board meeting that week anyway, so that's probably non-starter.
No. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. All right. And maybe sometime in July. All right. So moving on, updates, parks, fields, trails. All right. So the only thing I had actually touched base after a recent select board meeting with Evan on the Eagle Trail, and he was speaking with Conservation Commission about possible alternative composite surfaces other than the ones that we currently know of. Right now, we speak of matting, we speak of stone dust. We've spoken of concrete and asphalt, but he was in the context of some of this area being wetlands, he was in communication with Conservation Commission, or our conservation agent, Leah Cameron, Leah Cameron, Cameron.
Hold on. Is it, he's in touch with the
Conservation agent to
Okay.
Regarding possible composite surfaces that could be could address the surface. You know, right now that it's has to be a firm, stable, a surface has to be firm, stable, and slip resistant. And so that really needs to be addressed about what are we going to do with that before curb cuts and accessible routes, because we can't be making a bridge to nowhere. You know what I mean? So when we can come up with what the actual surface will be and what we will do to address that, then we could probably on the quick talk about curb cuts and parking and things like that. I think that'll be the less of the issue. The surface itself is a half mile in length, so maybe not put the cart before the horse. There are some moving parts, and but I'll be doubling back with him about. And I left a message for Jeffrey Dugan at Mass Office on Disability, to see whether we can't just do this without Mass Office on Disability being on board. It'd probably be a variance. So when Jeffrey Dugan calls me back, I'm going to ask him, have there been any changes regarding variances pertaining to composite surfaces that we previously didn't know about? I think people are getting creative, you know. I guess the market demands it too, you know.
Right.
There has to be some in between hard pavement or sidewalk, concrete sidewalks and stone dust. So he alluded to there being a potential solution, but that solution is only something that we can do in the context of Mass Office on Disability, Architectural Access Board being on board with that. We can't just move forward and go against what is previously approved list of surfaces. You know, we saw that with the matting, that Architectural Access Board had to proceed with a variance to allow the matting outside of playground areas. So I just want to have all my ducks in a row that that we may not be aware that there may be additional surfaces that are being talked about that may be on the cusp of being approvable or approved surfaces. They kind of meet that standard of a firm, stable, and slip resistant. So I'll follow up and regarding the details between Evan, conservation agent, and Jeffrey Dugan, to see what we can do working together to see if there are alternatives that are acceptable to the state, that are probably easy to lay down and won't break the bank. So I'm crossing my fingers.
Ideally, right?
Ideally, you know, if necessary, I'll tell you that Airport Park is something to behold. Have you been up there?
Still have not.
You have not?
I still have not.
I'll try tomorrow.
All right. Have you ever walked Airport Park when it's a slush puddle? All right, because it was pretty wet up there. They added so much stone and it's asphalt. It's an amazing space that is one of the best kept secrets in town. So update parks, fields, trails. I don't have any updates on the other piece that we talked about our last meeting about. Like we talked about Ferry Street, we talked about Silver Lake. I'll have to double back with Jen Anderson regarding the other parks that we discussed at our last meeting. We can talk about that in July. So since Mr. Berger has departed, number 6, old business, polling locations. and I probably should have caught this on the front end of the meeting. He was to have spoken with Candy LaValle on this. And I spoke with him this week that conversation would definitely have occurred possibly this week or at the end of last week. So, so we'll defer that. I'll bring that back in July. 6B, Grafton Public Library regs. I did follow up back on when this originally happened. I can't believe how time flies. On March 23rd, I did ask Evan. It was pursuant to Bob Berger as the ADA coordinator and myself agreeing that the best action to take would be to ask Evan to have town council, speak with town council to review the library's regulations. Since the one about age identified rooms was already on the table, probably wouldn't hurt for the town attorney to review all of their regulations to see if any brought up any compliance concerns or ADA concerns. So it wasn't until this afternoon that I actually, rather than create a new email or a phone call, I simply forwarded the March 23rd email to Evan and CC'd Bob Berger to say what's going on with this. Now, I'm not suggesting, nor do I have any inside information that I shouldn't have regarding possible executive sessions, but I'm always mindful that whenever we have issues regarding legalities, that it's possible, I'm not saying it's happening, but it's possible, and I wouldn't know about it because I'm on the outside looking in, that this could be part of executive session, but I'm not allowed to know it. You know, if there's things going on behind the scene regarding legalities, there may be sort of conspicuous silence and maybe there's a lot happening behind the scenes that will come to fruition. But I will simply wait Evan's reply and keep this in the loop. I did leave a message today for Beth, is it Schreiber or Schreibner? Beth Galloway's new name.
Schreiber.
Schreiber. All right, it's not, there's no N in there. So I did leave a message for Beth to call me. I'm thinking, you know, maybe she heard something. So I left a voicemail message for her today as well. So that's all I had under old business. Anyone else have anything under old business? All right, new business. National Night Out is Tuesday, August 2nd. And without expecting you to be typing away, Christy, you don't need to include all the details what I'm going to say, but the website for National Night Out explains that it's an annual community building campaign that promotes police-community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie. So aside from that, there's broad latitude for us to throw a table in there and have MOD pamphlets and literature available.
We have a date.
Yeah, the 2nd of August, it's a Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of August each year. I guess it's going to go forward. I think last year was virtual maybe, or was canceled, I'm not sure. But
Okay.
So I know that we're not always a working group, but I can't imagine that I couldn't slap together something. And maybe even at the, last minute, just, see how much printing would cost. And maybe after the fact, ask the select board to use some of those parking fines violations. We'd be spending it for the first time. We have $700. Printing, I think printing for accessibility services to the general public would absolutely fall under an allowable expense. So, what I'll do is I'll probably just call the chief or someone that's coordinating and see how many people are anticipated there, and then guesstimate how many people would actually, 100% of the people don't walk away with literature. They walk away with hot dogs and
Mhm.
and table talk pies. So we wouldn't necessarily need a copy of everything for every anticipated attendant. But we also wouldn't want to run out of everything either and be left with an empty table. So I'll figure out some of the things we could maybe copy to have, could be maybe just a half a dozen things. Doesn't have to be, everything under the sun, but for starters, it would be good to have a presence there for the first time.
It would. Do you, I wonder too, if it's worth asking if they're going to do anything in conjunction with that program you mentioned earlier,
Oh,
if they're partnering with the school. That'd be a great opportunity for some parents, potentially.
right. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a good observation. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. And we might be that sort of an entree potentially for this group as well.
Right. All right. Yeah, okay. All right. So I'll speak with, I always forget how to pronounce her name. Is it Heather Nadeau? Or she's had a CPAC now because Leora resigned because she'd reached her term. I will write a note to myself, speak with Heather. And I will get my trusty blue marker. Oh my God, where's my blue marker? All right. Trusty blue highlight, all right. It's going in the basket, it's out of the juice. So National Night Out. And then the other thing is, okay, July, just to plant the seed, July, our first meeting of July, I will call to order, but then we will have our reorganization. It's each fiscal year, committees reorg. Doesn't have to mean we change anything, but we affirmatively would vote on chair, vice chair, and clerk. So
by default, we'll have to have a new vice chair. So I guess that part will
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, this is true. And so I don't know, I see your vice chair hat on, Rob.
Oh,
And Christy,
I was
I
thinking
don't
about
see,
Christy.
I don't know, but I don't see anyone else's fingers moving.
Catherine.
We can talk about it. It's kind of interesting when we met for the first time, and I remember the date, it was 9/19 of 19. And so I'm going on 3 years as chair. I mean, I don't mind, I think we are in a good flow. But we can talk about that at our first meeting, our next meeting in July about, we'll necessarily need to find a vice chair. And how we would want to work it, and
Yeah.
who wants to do what roles, but it's something to at least think about in advance. So,
Well, I'm here at least another year. So
all right.
I have
Wait a
till
minute.
November of next year, things are gonna change a little bit, but
What are you talking about?
That.
Oh, that's right. Don't leave. What is it? My big fat Greek wedding. Tula, why you want to leave me?
yeah, we don't know where we're gonna end up because he's in Lincoln, Rhode Island. So
Right.
we're not really sure if I'm gonna be staying in town or not. So but
Oh.
I have until November of next year to figure that out. So
Yeah.
Okay.
There is no rule that you have to be a president. But normally people consider
yeah.
residents
It is
to
kind of
be
weird to like live somewhere else and deal with
Yeah.
it.
But again, congratulations. I keep on forgetting
for
you're
sure.
engaged.
Yeah.
So that's, you're talking about this November or next?
Next November, November
Oh,
23.
okay.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with us for another year. Plus. All right, so next meeting is, so anyone else have any new business that they want to talk about? All right, the next meeting is Thursday, July 21st. I think it's the latest it could be at 6:30. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Full motion.
All right, and I'll take that second from Rob because you had
There
your
you go.
hand up. All right. All right, motion made to adjourn at 7:55 by roll call. Catherine,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Christie,
Aye.
Roger, I declare the motion carried at 4-0, and this meeting is adjourned at 7:55.